Welcome to SmithWeekly Discussions, an occasional program for our readers and listeners of SmithWeekly Research. Please note this program is a private discussion and everything contained herein is for entertainment and educational purposes only. With that, we hope you're in a comfortable position, along with your favorite beverage, to enjoy the discussion. Before we get into our talk today, I want to say thanks to the questions coming from our audience at SmithWeekly, including Dale H., Peter S., QZGo123, and Matt W. We are talking today with Niko Cacos, President, CEO, and Director of Blue Sky Uranium, an Argentina-focused uranium explorer. The company is listed on the Toronto Venture Exchange under symbol BSK and also on the U.S. OTC markets under the symbol BKUCF. Niko, thanks for coming on.
Andrew, thank you for having me. A pleasure to be here.
So, Niko, give the audience your background before you joined the Grosso group, and then also tell us why you came to join the group and then lead Blue Sky.
Well, I joined the Grosso group about 26 years ago, and other than Joe Grosso and I were the only ones members of that group. I've been here since the group has been founded. And the reason for joining the Grosso group and for forming it has been really to focus on Argentina. Argentina back in the early 90s, prior to the early 90s, I should say, was completely out of the mining industry. There had been no systematic mining in there at all. All the mining properties were originally state-owned by the government. And in late 92, 93, the government decided to invite foreign investment to the government. And one of the industries that was being privatized and allowing for foreign investors was mining. And it was at that time, it didn't take much. Joe Grosso went down there in Argentina, and I stayed here in Vancouver running the head office. And basically, it wasn't really difficult to see the opportunity where you've got a country the size of Argentina, which is the seventh largest country in the world, virtually unexplored, and completely on the other side of the border and surrounding it, you've got Chile and Bolivia, where some of the world's largest gold and copper mines are being formed, and they run right up against the border. So the opportunity was glaring that, there's a lot of low fruit here to be picked, and there's some, it was one of the world's truly last frontiers for exploration. And we formed a Grosso group, put a study together, focused on areas that we knew that would yield discoveries. And to date, I'm proud to say that companies under the Grosso group management have made 4 world-class discoveries. We have discovered the Guacamayo mine, which was put into production and run by Yamana and just recently sold off. We discovered Navidad silver deposit in southern Argentina, which still ranks as the world's largest undeveloped silver deposit. And more recently up in northern Argentina, the Chinchilla silver mine, which we just put into production a couple of months ago together with SSR Mining. And of course, the latest discovery we have is the Amarillo Grande uranium deposit in southern Argentina, and that's the deposit that Blue Sky is developing right now.
So you name a lot of successes. Has there been any times with the group that there's been some success, some difficulties and maybe even failures with regards to maybe cycle timing or other types of issues that might have come up? Is there any things that maybe didn't go so well?
Well, exploration is exploration. It's high-risk business. It's no different than R&D. You chase a project. You initially, you explore it. You look at some interesting results on the surface. You do some magnetic work, some geophysical work. They don't always turn out, and the odds actually of making a success are like 1 in 1,000 projects that you review are likely to be turned into successes. But that being said, there are many very capable and reputable companies out there that never make a discovery. And to have made for under our management, I think speaks number one, of course, for the great opportunities that Argentina offers, and secondly, of course, speaks for our excellent technical team.
Right. And so in the Grosso group, you have three companies. What are the advantages of having everything kind of under the same umbrella in this type of structure?
Well, we have the three companies. They focus on different commodities, and each of these commodities are attractive to different investors. So they're packaged that way because that's the way that they're best presented. The Grosso Group, what it provides, it's a non-profit group. We don't make any money. It's just a cost-sharing structure. So it allows us to hire a higher tier, either geologist or a chief CFO or a compliance officer that whose cost then can be shared amongst the three companies according to the usage that how much they use the services of these people. So everybody keeps track of their time, how they spend it on which company, and then the accountants apportion the expenses accordingly. So the Grosso Group gives each of these junior companies a backbone of that could be provided like by only a larger, more structured company, but also then each company is run accordingly to its needs. So the companies still remain agile and able to react to opportunities as they come around.
Right. No, that arrangement, I can see the efficiencies, and it sounds quite similar to the setup with Hunter Dickinson HDI. So I think that there's some interesting similarities there, and I think it makes sense for what you guys are doing.
Yeah. It's not unique what we're doing.
And so tell us about Blue Sky in terms of management expertise. Tell us about the capital structure, insider ownership, and tell us, of course, about, you mentioned before, the company main assets.
Well, I'll start with the company's main assets are the Amarillo Grande project. We just recently, just less than a year ago, published our first resource there of 19 million pounds of uranium and just over 10 million pounds of vanadium. And this project occurs in southern Argentina in a land package that's over 250,000 hectares. So the strike length along this area is 145 kilometers long. And we're focused in a 1 kilometer by 1 kilometer area in the very southern portion of it. And we've seen uranium mineralization that goes along the entire strike length. So what we feel we've uncovered here is a brand new uranium vanadium district. This is something that's attracting international attention already. The size of the deposit is already one of the largest in Argentina. And right now what we're doing is we're working on a PEA to demonstrate the economic viability of this project. Because we want to be able to say that this project can make money in today's environment, let alone in the upcoming rising uranium market. And there's potential to expand this. This has potential to become one of the largest and lowest cost uranium vanadium mines in the world. So it's an exceptional opportunity. Management has been a big believer in this project. In fact, in the last few years since the Fukushima crisis, the whole uranium market, while it's been depressed, that was the time that management invested their own money to keep the project alive and moving it forward and expanding it. And we've had, so to answer one of those questions, management and close friends and associates here control between 55 and 60% of the company's stock. In terms of some of the experts we have some of the best experts working on uranium experts working on Blue Sky. Team leader is our VP of Exploration, Guillermo Pensado. Just recently, a few months ago, he was awarded an industry award in Argentina for being the #1 exploration geologist. He has over 25 years of experience working uranium. He's worked with Cameco, so he's an exceptional person and really a key person helping us to develop the Amarillo Grande. Also, we have some excellent technical advisors. We're working with the Saskatchewan Research Council We're working with Chuck Edwards as our chief technical advisor for processing. He's probably the number one person in the world for providing advice on how to process uranium and so forth. So, and of course, I'd be remiss if I left out Dr. David Terry, who's been a director and with the company since inception, and has been excellent at being able to help guide us through discovery and now into the economic study parts of this project.
Well, I appreciate the information on that, and I want to get more into Argentina in a moment. But before we get to that, I want to talk just a little bit more details on the administrative side. What is your approach to compensation of the management team? Tell us how company management is aligning themselves with that of the shareholders.
Well, company, if you all you need to do is pick up one of the quarterly reports that we publish and post onto our website, and you can see that management takes a very nominal sum, very small sum of money. Management is really align themselves by owning shares in the company, and that's the way we view as getting our reward. Like Joe Grosso, the chairman and the direct chairman of the company, is probably the largest shareholder of the company. I myself am one of the larger shareholders of the company. David Terry, another director. So we put our money where our mouth is. So if we find a success, and we're hoping that we will, we're going to be properly rewarded. And if there's no success, well, that's just the way it goes.
Absolutely. So, Niko, on the budgeting side, how much do you figure of your guys' total capital in any given year? How much do you allocate towards advancing the project, exploration type work versus maybe G&A cost? What would you say in terms of percentage?
I'd say about 80% of the money that we raise goes into exploration.
Okay, perfect. So moving on, I want to talk about Argentina. Why do you like Argentina so much as a mining destination?
Argentina, well, like I stated earlier in my discussion there, Argentina is a great country because it's vastly underexplored. There's a lot of exceptional areas that I've never seen systematic advanced exploration. So there's a lot of easily identifiable mineralizations and deposits and discoveries that can be made there. And second of all, Argentina is it's a very safe place in which to do business. Right now, with the current government, it's very attractive. The government is very much pro-business, providing all kinds of encouragement and incentives for companies to come and invest in Argentina. Thirdly, with respect to uranium, Argentina is an exceptional place because the country is looking to further. It's a uranium jurisdiction. They have currently 3 nuclear power plants that are in operation. They have research reactors, particle accelerators, atomic centers, and they're looking to expand the amount of energy that they produce by renewables and especially by uranium, because they have this commitment to the Paris Accord, and they wish to reduce their reliance on fossil fuels. So the power plants, the nuclear power plants that they currently have in operation now, import all their uranium. They buy it from, I believe, Canada and Kazakhstan, and they're very keen to develop a domestic source of uranium, so that for security reasons, and they would of course pay international prices for that, and we're gearing up to be the first domestic source of uranium supply for Argentina.
Okay, well, so there's obviously some import there to fuel those plants that had occurred in the past, and now with you guys, and maybe there's only a few others, maybe one that I can think of off the top of my head that's in there. Would you guys be looking at give us kind of what's going on in terms of in the government? What's up with the uranium mining export? Is there any consideration for that, or would all the mining supply be designated for domestic?
No, it wouldn't, because if we were to put a project like ours into production, currently Argentina imports about 500,000 pounds a year. The balance of that would be used for international export. We would supply Argentina for what it needs, and then the balance, of course, we would provide on the international market.
So is there already a framework in place for export as far as, transportation from the mine and onto a boat and so forth? Does the government already have those policies in place?
The policies are not in place because there is no nuclear uranium production right now in Argentina, and that's something we'd be working very closely with both the federal and provincial governments put into production. But in the province where we're active, there's exceptional infrastructure in that area. There is transportation facilities available. We're only like 50 kilometers away from a port. There's skilled labor. There's power. It's a very mining friendly area. And the province, on top of that, has its own nuclear research reactor manufacturing base. So they actually build and export these small portable nuclear reactors worldwide.
Right, and I understand there's also an enrichment facility that was, I think, commissioned in 2015.
Yes.
Tell us a bit about the permit lead times there. How is the government with permitting on a uranium project? I mean, given they don't have a lot of experience with it, do you feel the lead times would be similar to other mining projects?
I believe the lead times would be very similar to other projects. We would be working again very, very closely with the government. They know who we are. We have a long track record in Argentina, being managed through the Grosso Group. Joe Grosso and the Grosso Group have received many awards in Argentina for being mining pioneers. Mining Man of the Year was Joe Grosso a couple of years back. So our name and our reputation in Argentina is such that the government would very willingly collaborate with us. We're already in discussions with the government. That this is getting properly licensed and permitted to go forward is something that I think they're going to assist us and walk us through. So I don't foresee any hurdles.
Okay. I think it's a breath of fresh air a little bit because you just don't have in Argentina yet, you don't have the red tape that you might see in like a US or a Canada.
No, definitely not. And like our experience with other mining projects in Argentina, especially since the last quarter century when we started there was no mining experience, and we worked with the government and helped them develop their mining code and their permitting process. And we've never ever had a mining permit been turned down. Always been granted to us on time as when we expected it. And like I say, we work carefully, we work honestly, and with humility. And the government is very eager to move things along. And I think they see this great opportunity in being able to have uranium, not just domestic supply. I think they see the merits having a domestic supply being exported for the international market.
Right, and I think President Macri, I think, is in favor of he's pretty pro mining from what I've seen here. So that's a good key force to have behind
Yes.
you as well. What about national ownership, royalties, and taxes? What's kind of how does Argentina approach that?
Well, I'm not sure how that works with the uranium. It's something that we're looking into just to make sure that there's no much difference than from when other commodities like gold, silver, or other base metals. But there is a royalty that goes to the provincial government. That's basically it, and we pay our
Okay.
taxes and our just the regular taxes and value added taxes, whatever there is. But there's nothing exceptional there.
Okay. Well, yeah, sounds pretty straightforward. So,
Hmm.
so you already kind of mentioned export, obviously with the supply potential there, and I know we'll get into some of the other stuff, the status of the project here in a moment. But the company looking to seek first domestic suppliers before they go after foreign clients as far as supplying uranium.
In the uranium market, it's not you look to see where you can make a deal, and we know we have a willing, relatively large buyer within Argentina. So that would be one type of contract, and then of course we would look at making contracts with other nuclear reactors around the world that have a requirement for a long-term supply.
So what are your thoughts on the recent cooperation with Argentina and Russia regarding further nuclear development in the country, new reactors and enrichment capability and even mining? What's your thoughts on the recent news on that?
Well, Argentina is a country again that's been quite that has a lot of opportunities, and it's not just the Russians that are being involved there. We've seen that there's a lot of Chinese groups that come down there. There's groups from India that come there, groups from Germany. We've worked with Arriva in the past, so we've seen large groups coming out from France and Europe. There's just a lot of potential, I think, in Argentina for development. And, I'm not sure about political reasons for, Russia and Argentina having to team up, but, and that's not something that I want to comment on because that's not my expertise. But I think a lot of it has to do with the exceptional potential that Argentina has in terms of mining and uranium potential.
Yeah, and I'll add a bit on that. I think that Russia certainly has a motivation to become, kind of the one-stop shop. Come and we'll offer you our technology, our enrichment, our complete nuclear fuel package. Even we'll give you
Yep.
financing too. And so I think Russia has really stood out beyond the United States and beyond China globally, going after providing energy solutions. And I think
Yep.
with that, Russia obviously it's obvious that there's leverage behind that. And so I think it's interesting, and I think nonetheless, I think foreign investment into these types of things is positive. So I think that's good overall. So the ore grades in Argentina are similar to West Africa, maybe a country like Namibia. Give us the similarities and differences as well as your thoughts on cost. Do you see something like the Ivana deposit representing total cost less than what you'd see in a place like Namibia?
It would be very similar, perhaps a little better. Another good deposit I like to compare it to is the Inkai deposit in Kazakhstan. And the reason I think it would be better than these other places is that, the Ivana deposit occurs near, very, very near, or at surface. There's no blasting involved. It's all unconsolidated. You just it's like just hard packed gravel, so you can just scoop it up. Then with a beneficiation process, which involves just a little scrubbing and then some leaching, we can increase the grade and be able to extract both the uranium and vanadium at preliminary studies have shown that we can do that at a very low cost. And I think with the PEA that is due to come out in the next week or so, I think we'll be able to demonstrate some very specifics with respect to that.
Okay, so Niko, with the vanadium credits, given some vanadium credits there and the potential of the operational setup that you might have, can you give us a rough ballpark of all-in costs?
I haven't seen even a draft of the PEA report, so I'm completely guessing. I'm looking to see us being comparable to, like, some of these other deposits, like I described, like Inkai, with under $15 a pound. That's what our goal is. So we'll see what the actual numbers come in at in the next week or so.
Okay, yeah, it'll be interesting to see what that comes in at, and also what you guys estimate for all-in sustaining costs, total cost on that.
Yes.
So with that, you mentioned some upgrade process. I know there's a couple different technologies out there, but give us an example of what you guys are going to go after when you guys look at the upgrade process. What are you looking at as far as, are you looking at another technology, or are you doing something in house?
No, the upgrade process it's real simple. You basically scoop up the material and put it into a sieve. You scrub because the pebbles, the large pebbles in there, don't contain any mineralization. So by just doing a wet scrubbing and then putting it through a sieve and removing all the large material, we found from some preliminary metallurgy that we've done, we've been able to increase 300 and 400% the grades for both uranium and vanadium.
You guys are going to wash and screen the material, and that's pretty much your upgrade. That's fantastic.
Yes. It doesn't get simpler than even I can understand that.
No, absolutely. No, that's great. Bring in a screen plant, and yeah, that's fantastic. And you mentioned the digging; it seems to be pretty easy, and obviously it's pretty clear that the material there. What are the depths for the main part of the deposit? What kind of depths are you guys looking at?
Well, the main part of the deposit at Ivana, it starts basically from surface, and it goes down to 5 to 10 meters, and then that's where we have this superficial uranium and vanadium, and then the model then indicates that below that, up to about 40 meters below that, there is also some sandstone hosted uranium, and we've seen these geological formations occur through this entire district that we completely own. which again, I reiterate, is 145 kilometers in strike length by 50-kilometer width. So this is a very large area, and we're the only ones there.
So what kind of resource are you guys looking to delineate before moving forward through PEA, pre-feasibility, and so forth? Give us a target in terms of million pounds. Are you guys going to go with what you guys have now, or are you looking to build that up a little bit before you go after the final economics?
No, we'll have the PEA out, which will demonstrate our, the economics for where we are now. But since the last resource, I know we've been able to step out drilling, around the deposit area just a couple of kilometers away, and we're finding that this deposit is bigger than what we've already stated. So it's not very expensive to do step out work there. So I think we're going to continue to expand it. We're going to continue to grow it before we put this into production, although I expect that the PEA will indicate that it'll be economic now, but I think it would be better if we had more material. And our target for this district, it's got potential to host, upwards of 100 million pounds of uranium.
Yeah, I think scale is important, and I think you guys are working towards that quite well, and be interesting to see what comes out of it. So what is the ultimate goal of the company? Is the priority to build and produce, or is it to just advance assets and hope of a buyout?
As our skill set goes, we are explorers, and as explorers, we can find more and develop it, define it, and we can take it right up to pre-feasibility and feasibility study. Going actually into production, sure, we could bring in the right people to help us go forward, but I think at that point we'd probably be looking at finding somebody who's got a lot more experience than we do, and either partner up or sell it, or just see what the best arrangement is that benefits the company and shareholders in the most beneficial way.
Okay. So, Niko, give us your thoughts on the timeline given the assumption that the project is economical and can move forward. When will a PEA be ready? What time do you need to get pre- and definitive feasibilities? How long to permit, find the funding, build, and commission? What do you think time frame-wise? Are we talking 2023, before 2024?
It'll be before that. We'll have the PEA in the next week or so. To get to a feasibility study, we could probably have that done in 10 to 12 months. And probably about a year to get the permit.
So you and I both know the pricing and contract model for vanadium is currently different to that of uranium. What is the strategy of the company to monetize the vanadium assets? And are you in discussions with clients already on this?
We've been approached by a number of different clients already, and we're having discussions with respect to the vanadium. I think right now our basic response has been, look, it's still early days for us. We want to get a better handle on the amount of uranium and vanadium that is in the project before we can get into any definitive discussions regarding how to monetize that. And with that being said, we've talked a lot about the Ivana deposit because that's where our initial deposit is, but there are other targets where, like at the Anit target, where the vanadium is the predominant mineral, so that we're seeing 4 or 5 pounds of vanadium for every pound of uranium. So there's still a lot of work to be done here, and I think it can be accomplished in a relatively short time frame.
Yeah, it sounds like the grades there, and you mentioned is similar, very similar in terms of the vanadium versus uranium in the Colorado Plateau is quite similar type of setup. The amount of vanadium that's hosted with the uranium. So, is there any discussions yet about uranium offtake partners? Is the company looking at that? I know we've seen some other early stage deals come out with regards to offtake well in advance to any even development. Is there any thoughts on that, or are you guys still looking at that?
I'm reluctant to do anything too early because I think it caps some of the upside of the company. We're in right now what's an emerging uranium market. We've had a very interesting vanadium market to date, and I think vanadium prices are going to stay elevated for some time longer. With that, it would be interesting to see in a year from now if you've got a much higher, better uranium market. I wouldn't want to have done a deal for an offtake in this environment and lose out later. So I think In the meantime, we're happy to continue to fund the company to expand the deposit, and then bet on a better market in the future, and then sit down and do a deal.
Well stated. And I think that I think that you certainly need to leave plenty of upside for future contracts, and it might only make sense for financing reasons to do some small deals, but as things advance, I think you guys will probably have some news in that respect. So, what do you plan to accomplish in 2019, and what can investors be on the lookout for at this point?
I think 2019, the real pivot is going to be our PEA. I'd love to be able to stand up and wave this thing in my hand and say, look, this is not just economic, but it can make some substantial amount of money in this market today, and watch us grow this. And I think in a matter of 6 to 8 months, we would be able to define a number of more resources, because we have a number of targets that are just sitting out at surface, and we know all we need to do is drill them out and continue to add to build our deposit size, and then get into doing a pre-feasibility study.
Okay, so let's talk cash for a moment. So what do you need for capital in 2019? Does the company seek to raise capital, and how much might it be looking for?
No, we will be seeking to raise capital. I think an initial budget, to accomplish our exploration objectives for growing the deposit, probably be on the order of around $3 million. And then when we get to the point where we want to embark on a pre-feasibility or feasibility study, that's going to be a different ballpark. But we'll be raising money in a new environment at that time.
Okay, so you have another direct competitor in Argentina, a smaller U308 Corp. What is
Yes.
Blue Sky? Why is Blue Sky superior, and why might you like U308? Give us kind of the thoughts on the two companies, and why you think Blue Sky is better.
Well, U308's a great company. They're great individuals, but all their deposits are in the neighboring province there of Chubut, and I think there's a political problem in Argentina right now, because I know we have projects in Chubut as well, and that Chubut is an anti-mining province right now. So I think it's very difficult to embark on developing anything there, because the province is just going to say no. And just like we have a number of projects there that we have not been able to move forward there, you just don't get the permits to go on. Whereas in Rio Negro, the province just to the north of that, it's a very, very mining-friendly province. We're seeing a lot of support from them. And the second thing that differentiates our project is the size. Our 43-101 resource is about 4 or 5 times as big, and our metallurgy looks to be a little bit better. So just the way things have occurred.
So Niko, outside of Argentina, are there other uranium businesses that you think are interesting at this point?
There are outside of Argentina, but our focus is in Argentina. All our contact bases there. Our company, while we have an administrative staffing through the Grosso group here in Vancouver, we have an office in Argentina where we have lots of local experts that are, well tied into the industry, to the government, to the communities. So I think at this point, if we were to look at different jurisdictions, we'd be diluting our focus, unless, of course, it was such a glaring opportunity that it would be worthwhile to invest in and develop a similar infrastructure there. But that's a big undertaking, and I think at this point we're going to stay to look focused in Argentina.
So outside of Blue Sky, is there any other businesses in the industry that you might like, or that you like at this point you want to mention?
Outside of Blue Sky, there's tremendous business. We have a sister company called Golden Arrow, and they have just recently put into production one of the largest primary silver mines in the world with SSR Mining, and it achieved commercial production just a couple of months ago. And that is a company with it also having an exceptional portfolio of projects in Argentina and just over the border in Chile, very close to Argentina. So there's some tremendous upside there, and we're seeing a comeback here in the gold and silver markets as well in the last month or so. So I think that's another exceptional company to watch.
Okay. And how about outside, globally, maybe U.S., Canada, Africa? Is there any uranium companies that you think are interesting at this point?
There are some companies that are interesting, but operations in some countries in Africa can be dicey, can be dangerous, like in Niger and some other countries where I think at this point, I think Argentina and Blue Sky, Argentina is just a safe place to be, and just a lot of it's like a big playground for us. That there's lots to do there. I'm not aware. I'm sure there are other places in the world that are just as good, but early stage Argentina is a great place to make discovery and to develop it and to make more.
What are your thoughts in Canada on the Athabasca Basin and the surrounding of companies there and the various deposits? What are your thoughts on that region and the work going on there?
Big deposits, exceptional grades, but the stuff is buried, sometimes kilometers deep underground in frozen hard rock. Expensive to extract. We need much higher uranium prices to make those areas, economic. I think, big opportunities that Canada and the United States have really dropped is fostering a uranium and nuclear industries. I think we've fallen behind in the world, and there are other countries, like you said, like Russia and Korea, that have done a much better job in developing, nuclear power as an alternate and safe and secure source of power, and carbon free for that matter. So it's a shame to see, but who knows? Maybe things will change as we go forward.
So looking big picture, in your mind, what is the biggest hurdle for uranium and the price to start pushing higher?
I think the price has already started pushing higher. For what I think the biggest hurdle for uranium is perception. It's a perception that it's an unsafe industry for nuclear reactors, and I think that that's unfortunate. An example I like to use is if the discovery of electricity was first associated with the electric chair. I think most people wouldn't want to have electricity in their home because everybody would be scared of it. And once you overcome that fear, I think, and you look at the hard data and you can see that with nuclear reactors around the world, there's never been a death. There's never been anybody killed from radiation because of a nuclear leak. But, you look at the fossil fuel industry and the pollution and the number of people who die from premature, getting lung cancers and smoke inhalation and that, it's in the order of hundreds of thousands, if not millions. It's just a perception out there that nuclear power is unsafe. I think as that begins to turn, and we're seeing that happening, especially in a lot of emerging countries like Argentina and some African countries and countries in the Gulf Coast, in the Arabian Peninsula there. And as that happens, I think we here in Canada and the United States begin to appreciate that. I think that's going to be a real game changer for uranium.
Well, I certainly think that right now, given the temperatures that are going on in the U.S. and Canada, I think that people can appreciate the fact that the nuclear plants continue to produce baseload power, whereas some of these other things like wind and so forth are quite challenged. Even if you had wind, the cold seems to be taking their toll. And let's not count how many people have fallen off roofs installing solar panels or died trying to install these large, massive projects or wind turbine projects. It's quite different if you look at the statistics.
Yeah.
So, Niko, why should investors be taking a stake in Blue Sky today? What would you say to potential investors about Blue Sky at this point?
Blue Sky offers it's like owning I guess better than owning a lottery ticket because the odds are much better. But Blue Sky has the potential to return, as this uranium market begins to come back over this year and the next year, and as Blue Sky is well positioned right now with having a defined brand new uranium discovery that not fully well known out there in the world, and as it becomes to be well known and we grow it, I think the potential for returns on owning Blue Sky stock can be multiple fold. So just from that point of view, I think if somebody looking to buy something that has the potential for a real win, I think Blue Sky definitely has that potential.
Okay, and how can investors reach out to the company for more information?
they can contact us on our website at blueskyuranium.com. We can be reached. There's our phone numbers are there. You can it can be dialed at 1-604-687-1828. Ask for myself or our investor relations person, Sean Perger. We'd be happy to talk to everybody that has questions or comments, whether positive or negative. We're always here to take that.
Well, Niko, thanks for the discussion on Blue Sky, and good luck.
Thank you very much. A pleasure talking to you.